Alright guys, I wanted to give you an update video in a more longer format going over every item that I've crafted in my base. For those of you that don't know, I'm in the process of making an IRL Rust base in my office. So as you can tell, I've turned a lot of stuff into reality. And I want to go over everything one by one just so you have a progress video, and I'll leave timestamps down in the description below. No cuts in this video, but I want to go over everything in as much detail as I can. So to start, I want to go over the furnace, and then I want to go over everything, what's inside my box, inside my tool cupboard, everything. So to get started, this furnace was a freaking task. Initially, it started off as a flower pot that was upside down, and then I used chicken wire to kind of form a rough shape, use spray foam to fill it all in. I would shave off the spray foam, and then I used a stuff you can get at like a hardware store. It's called joint compound. It's what they use for like sheetrock repair. And I just basically just formed the whole thing. I 3D printed rocks, and then I covered the rocks basically with that same material. And then once that all dried, I was able to spray it with primer and then paint. The inside, the light does actually light up as well. This was a lamp on Amazon. I kind of, as you can tell, tore it up so that way it would fit, because I didn't feel like drilling a hole, so I just basically scraped away the joint compound material here, so that way this could sit in pretty easily. It charges with a USB-C, and then it's got a button with a few different modes. It's daytime right now, so it's not exactly bright, but at nighttime it is amazing. So that's the furnace. It weighs about maybe 40 pounds. It's not super heavy. I tried to make it as lightweight as I could, but that's about it. It's maybe a little bit shorter than it is in game, but that's what I've got to work with. Next thing's the the tool cupboard. A couple things on top actually. So you obviously need a building hammer and a Pookie Bear, but let me set those to the side. I've got a couple things. No, I've got one thing up here that I'm currently printing or painting is the key lock. So a lot of people have suggested that I craft one of these. I think it'd be kind of cool to swap out between this and the code lock sometimes, or put this on the box or on like my refrigerator or something. I don't know. Be pretty cool. And then the rock. I think I've shown you that before, but there's the rock. So what do I keep inside my tool cupboard? Is not my upkeep actually. Well, I guess it is kind of my upkeep. But I got all my materials. I've got paint, I've got filament, which I'll actually be refilling very soon. New sponsor news coming out soon. I got all my bolts, rope, tape, sandpaper, drills, anything I basically need. Well, this one's kind of empty, but that's where I normally keep some of my paints, my acrylics, and then just a bunch of random hardware. Like for the jackhammer, I bought some of these handles on Amazon because, I don't know, I just didn't want to 3D print that shape. Thought it turned out pretty cool. But yeah, that is what's inside of the tool cupboard. Nothing super fancy. Now, the tool cupboard itself actually originated from an antique cupboard, but I thought it looked super similar to the tool cupboard, and I was like, I can definitely reskin that. So with the help of Britt, he actually sent over $130 so I could buy this on Facebook Marketplace. So shout out to Brett for helping me comp that. I bought a couple materials from the hardware store, like these aluminum kind of edge pieces. I just cut off and painted. And then I roughened up a lot of the wood, as you can tell, to where there's distinct lines inside of it. These actually were one board. I just intentionally made a line all the way up it so it looked like multiple. And then painted it, just went over it loosely with brown to kind of give it a rough look. The key lock is also actually a 3D printed model. It's not functional. In fact, you can see the wood just barely on the other side of that. And then these are normal hardware knobs we actually had left over in the house. The key lock is also a 3D print. Thought this one turned out pretty cool actually. As you can tell, it's just plastic with some magnets on the back. I've used this in a lot of videos. This actually can go on my garage door, my refrigerator, anything that's metal, basically. Oh, so a little thing that I've not mentioned too many times at all is this little shotgun trap. This is a little Easter egg, but this is actually what got me started into making props. So I 3D printed this one. I painted it. Thought it turned out pretty cool. I was like, you know what? That's very simple. I think I could actually build that. So as you can tell later on, I did end up building the shotgun trap, which I'm kind of skipping around, but I'll get to that here in a little bit. So let me put these back up. So this bucket helmet, just a galvanized normal bucket. As you can tell, I put some paper towels inside because my head actually sits too high up in the bucket, making it hard to look through the face mask. So I added some paper towels that are just taped in and scrunched up a little bit. It's just makes it more comfortable. And then having two on the side makes it to where the helmet doesn't rotate as much. And then the front is just chicken wire. So these bottom parts, which I mimicked to the game as well, these are in the game, but these are so freaking sharp. So you just, if you make one of these, be mindful. You got to be careful. The metal face mask. So this print file actually came from lootroom.com. You can download it from there, or you can purchase a full face mask from there as well. But I printed off one, I painted it. The mouth was super tricky. I won't even lie, that was pretty hard. And then the headpiece, I had to figure out something myself. So this is fully custom, and it is not exactly beautiful. But I basically just started off with a kind of a ball shape, and then I hollowed it to where I can morph my own headpiece. You can even see the original plastic in here, still pink. I just super glued some leather on it, but it worked out pretty well. I've got a big head, so it took a few attempts, I won't lie. The weapon rack. This is one of the cooler things that I built, just because it's like visual eye candy. Anybody can walk in here and see it. It does have some lights. Let me get the remote for that. So it's just a little Amazon wireless light kit. I've got a bunch of natural light coming in through my windows, so it doesn't seem as bright, but they're actually pretty bright. So let's start over here. This first one is a SAR. This one is from Loot Room. This is the only print in my entire office/base that I did not actually print or paint myself. So this is the only thing that came from Loot Room physically. This custom SMG downloaded from Loot Room, printed it, painted it myself. Thought this one turned out pretty cool. I was pretty proud of how this one came out. I tried to make it look real metal, and I mean, it looks kind of cool to me, but you guys be the judge. Drop in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. If I can remember how I hung it up. There we go. Iokas, also from Loot Room's website. These are like one of the only things I've ever printed with a skin, just because it's kind of small. It was easy to print. So I printed a second one, and the banana Ioka is pretty iconic, so I figured that one was the most fitting. Everything on this weapon rack, by the way, I'd usually just hold up and then like mark two spots and then just drill some screws in. So as you can tell, I'm not using like proper hooks or anything. It's just simple screws. This P250, I've downloaded the file from a site called Thingiverse. There's actually some dust on top of that. So yeah, somebody custom modeled this from Thingiverse, and it actually slides a little bit. It's kind of hard to show. And then the trigger pulls. So I thought that was super unique. A lot of props don't actually do that, so yeah, download that one from there. We'll go over the big one. So the next one, this Chongus is the rocket launcher. It's kind of hard to show this one on camera, I won't lie. The back does open. You can load it up with a rocket if you have one. I do have one. Unfortunately, it's the wrong size, but I do have a rocket. And yeah, whenever you aim down sight, it actually does look like in-game. I don't think I'll be able to do it on camera because it gets too close to my phone, but yeah, this was actually one of my first models to make. This big part is actually just a 4-inch PVC pipe. And then these parts like this, these are all printed. This one being the biggest, obviously. This one also is the only one that I do have proper mounts for on my weapon rack. So I'm using like some bicycle rack type things. And the next one, this is more recent. This one's the Bolty. Thought this one turned out pretty cool. I'm using a very fisheye lens right now, so everything far looks small, but it's a pretty good size. The furniture on the wood as well, I made a little bit darker. I can't say it was super intentional, but I just rolled with it and I kind of liked it, so I didn't want to change it, but yeah. All of these prints are really lightweight too. So if you're interested in printing any of these for reference, they're like, I mean, maybe a pound. You know, like the AK is the biggest one, you know, in terms of weight, other than the rocket launcher, but this one's, I mean, it's super lightweight. This one is also from Thingiverse. This one is a file from there, but you can also get it from Loot Room as well. Magazine does detach, and I will say it does not sit in here super well, so it can come out rather easily. And I think it's like this on most models on the internet, but I'm debating on super gluing it or not. I don't know. Let me know. I kind of like the detachable mag, but yeah, there's the AK. This one was to scale pretty well. I did use a real bolt back here too. It comes with a 3D print file, but I decided just to use a real one. Let's see if I can remember. I guess the next thing is just the weapon rack itself. So every piece of wood from the weapon rack was just extra wood in my garage. I didn't spend $1 on the weapon rack itself. So even these little brackets, these were actually just little metal pipe holders, and I'd flatten them out and then just randomly screwed them around. This weapon rack is not to scale in Rust. So in Rust, it would typically be probably another, 20 or 30% larger, as you can tell from the green triangle part. But I had to comprise it a little bit because my office, just real estate, wasn't as big as in a normal base. So that is actually a pretty heavy prop. I'd say the weapon rack is, gosh, maybe 40 pounds, which isn't a whole lot, but holding it up and screwing it on the wall, it was just awkward solo. Yeah, so the next prop, this was actually the newest one. I finished this one yesterday. This is the double barrel, the Door Camper 9000. And in fact, actually, after finishing this entire thing, I realized at the very end I forgot to do the trigger. So, little side Easter egg there for anybody who watches my videos. It just doesn't have a trigger. I don't think I'll put one because it barely fits my finger, if I'm being honest. So, yeah, there's the double barrel. It does not function. All of these are very static props, but there it is. Next one, you got the good old revolver. This one came from Loot Room. Same with the double barrel too, by the way. But yeah, if you're interested in printing these, this part does spin. Turned out pretty cool. Trigger does not pull. But yeah, there's a close-up. Scrap. This is a fully custom model that I made in reference of the game. I made the file for free on my Discord, so if you click on the description, you can join my Discord there. But yeah, this one this is one of the only models I made from scratch myself. A lot of the other ones on here that I've printed are actually available online, but scrap was not, so thought it turned out pretty cool. I put magnets on the back too as well, so I could put it up on like something metal. But one print that I do have pending over here to the side is the water pipe. I've made some progress on it. As you can tell, it's not done yet, but like I did a little bit of the wood texture back here, up here, and then I did like the initial coat of kind of copper on the piping. So this one's a long way from being done, but there's the water pipe. And before we get to the box, I want to just talk about the shotgun trap right quick. So I will pick this one up. So the shotgun trap, it's very light. I would say it's maybe 5 pounds. And everything was made from scratch wood other than the PVC pipe, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the PVC pipe, I think it's like 1 inch up here and then 1.5 inch up here. So that way they perfectly slide together. Don't quote me. I'm pretty sure it's something like that. I actually just did that at the store. So whenever I went to Home Depot, I just actually got 2 PVC pipes and made sure they would fit together before I bought it. And then 3D printed this little bolt piece. Cutting out this part of the shotgun trap was actually super, super tricky. I don't have the fancy tools that could do that easily. So I actually ended up drilling like 200 holes and then ended up just kind of chiseling and knocking it out. But it got a neat little texture to it. So I don't know. I think it turned out pretty cool. It made it look like it's more homemade than it is. I think sharp angles would have just not seemed as authentic. And then the rest of it, like I said, was just scrap wood. To get like a rough look to it, I threw a stain on it to make it a little bit darker. And then I went over it with a really light black paintbrush. And I would just kind of scratch in some spots in the parts that I feel like would have needed to look a little bit darker. These are 3D printed pulleys, nothing fancy, and then just some twine. Needs to be kind of tightened, but yeah. There's the shotgun trap. This one was actually one of my first viral things that I made. A lot of people loved seeing that, other than TikTok moderators. So, the large box. The large box does have a couple screws in the front, so I showed you earlier the code lock. I can put this on the box as well. This one is a very heavy build. So this one I would say is at least 80 pounds. It is solid wood, and this will last forever. In fact, the lid was so heavy, as you can tell, I had to add little gaskets to the side, or pistons, or whatever you call those things, just so that way it's not like a 40-pound lid, because when your finger's right here, it gets pinched hard. Even with these gaskets, it's still it still drops down at the very bottom, but lifting it up, it's a lot easier. Yeah, so inside the box, got a lot of stuff in here. As you can tell, I drilled holes in the side so I could do the rope. By the way, whenever you buy 5 feet of rope from the hardware store, tell them what you're doing with it. They'll give you kind of good, weird looks if you don't. So anyway, a couple more metal face masks. Whoops, I knocked off the code lock on the front. That's one problem I have with this, is it comes off really easily on the box. Landmine. I've got a ton of med sticks. Bean can grenade. And then I just punched a hole in the top, put a little nut through, some rope. But yeah, just an empty can. Salvaged hammer. This is actually the first fully custom model I made myself. Not really one of my more proud models. I don't know, I'm not sold on the look of it. But I did model everything because the whole thing's basically made out of just a bunch of cylinders, so it really wasn't too hard. But yeah. The salvaged axe, I can't remember the website that I got this one from, but it's from if you just Google salvaged axe STL file, you'll find it if you want to print it yourself, but I thought this one turned out pretty cool. You can go farming for wood now. Salvaged pickaxe, I don't think I've featured this on a video yet, but I've had this one for a while. I think it was from Thingiverse. It's super lightweight. This is probably the lightest weight prop I've made. Now this jackhammer, this thing is a freaking hoss. So this one was a pretty complicated build. The file is available online. It's from a website called Colts 3D. One of the members of my Discord actually modeled this one. I made a lot of adjustments to it. So I actually made it to where I can pull the handle back and it'll actually play a sound. I think it might be dead at the moment, but in the bottom of the fuel can, I have this little soundboard that I can just toggle on and off. And whenever you push this button, it'll play a custom sound. I need to charge it, so it just takes a USB-C. And then I have the speaker played through the side over here, which I do want to cover up with a sticker. So the normal thing in the game actually does have stickers on it. So, but otherwise, to get a welding look right here as well, some people have asked, I used just some silicone caulking, and then I just kind of squished it with my finger a little bit, and then painted it a more silver look, and then it made it look, semi welding stuff. The rocket. Now, I told you earlier about the rocket launcher, that I do have a rocket. This one is a little bit too big. I printed this one way before I actually made the rocket launcher. So I do need to print another one of these that's a little bit smaller. Just haven't got around to it yet. So I do need to get some boom for the base though. And then yeah, just a bunch of med sticks. I won't take those out too much, but that is the large storage chest. Now, a couple questions that people have asked me. No, nothing functions. I've had a lot of people suggest the shotgun trap and stuff like that. I do not plan to make anything functional. Another thing is wallpaper. I do eventually want to do some sort of vinyl or paint or something. If you have an idea or you know a professional that can do some sort of texture like a wall base, let me know. I'm kind of lost on what to do, but I know that'll be one of the last things that will wrap up this base a lot. And then another thing is a rug. So a bear rug or the standard rust rug. I have no idea how to make rugs. I could try to find out, but I feel like I may just reach out to a professional to have one made whenever I get to the point where I could afford one of those. But yeah, this is the base so far. A little bit of the flow. Here's my workstation. Now, obviously, this half of the base has nothing to do with rust, but this is my workstation. I've got my big old new 3D printer over here. This is the Creality K2 Plus combo. It can hold up to 4 different filaments on just one of these little things, and then it prints like the biggest build space that any commercial 3D printer can do. Here's my paint station. As you can tell, I've got some metal chest plates queued up at the moment. These are only have like an initial coat of primer on them. I've not sanded them. I've not, filled in anything. So yeah, basically it goes from the computer to the desk and then to the base. If you guys have any other questions on what you would want to see in these longer form videos, let me know. But this is a full progress update on the base, and drop any comments down below on what you would like to see next, and then join my Discord as well, link below. Have a good one. Bye.